Now, joining me from Nairobi is Abdullahi Boru Halakhe. He's a Security and Policy Analyst specializing in Africa. What do you make of all this? The timing is certainly interesting, and I'll pose the same question I asked to our reporter Naba there. These groups have been around a long time. Is this just a control for power, basically, and why now?
Why now is a very important question, but the reality is this was expected. This is not something that was unexpected, because there's no way the two factions, that is led by Burhan, who leads the regular army, and the other one that is led by Dagalo, who is leading the RSF, there was no way they are going to coexist. Both of them are remnants of, al-Bashir government that he was attempting to coup-proof his administration. But for Dagalo, the reality is that there's no way him and Burhan could coexist, when in reality, both of them would want to lead Sudan post al-Bashir. However, both of them cannot be at the same time be seen as the guardian of the revolution and at the same time wanting to flex their muscles, both politically and militarily.
So, Abdullahi, what is going to happen to this country? The ceasefire, it sounds like it's not holding. There's already reports of sporadic violence. So what's going to happen?
I think it's very hard to predict what's going to happen. But one thing that is very predictable is that the future of Sudan is in real peril, because Dagalo, much as he's not coming from a very elite background, he has a very modest education, what he does have is the ability to do a well-drawn-out conflict that he is fairly much specialized, as well as his RSF. The second element that is very critical to this is both of them enjoy patronage that is largely from the Gulf countries. So as long as money is coming into the country, as long as they have that kind of support, they are going to fight, and fight they will, and that would put an already fragile, fraught country in a very perilous way. Here's the reason. Because 15.9 million people, that is a third, 1 in 3 Sudanese people are in need of humanitarian aid. And largely in areas around Blue Nile, Kordofan, that would be very critical.
Well, let me tell you what we heard from the UN. We're going to put up a tweet by UN's Martin Griffiths, who basically says the targeting of humanitarian workers and facilities continues in Sudan. And this is, I think, even more alarming than the developments we've been hearing the last few days. The UN, according to Martin Griffiths, they're receiving reports of attacks and sexual violence against aid workers. If you're attacking the aid workers, then you can forget about humanitarian aid.
Indeed, and the real problem is some of these areas that I mentioned, Blue Nile, Kordofan areas, these are hard to access areas even in the best of times. Can you imagine when these areas, again, because of conflict, cannot be accessed, again, if the aid workers are being targeted by sexual violence, and some of them have already been killed, the UN flights have been suspended, flights into the country from major airlines have been suspended. So you're looking at a situation where areas that are already hard to access, areas that are in need of humanitarian aid, never mind, Sudan also is a generator as well as a host of a lot of refugees, largely from South Sudan and other almost 8 other African countries, and it has got 2.5 million people, IDPs. You're looking at an incredibly fragile situation, not just in Sudan, I want to add, because in the region as well, you have Chad that is just going through transition. So it is an incredibly delicate humanitarian and peace and security situation, not just in Sudan, but in the entire region.